everyone. Very happy to be joined by Morgan Greene. Do you want to start us off with an introduction to yourself and your books?
Of course. My name is Morgan Greene, and I'm the author of the Detective Jamie Johansson series, a Scandi noir kind of crime thriller series set primarily in Sweden. And today is the launch of the 7th book in the series, Blackheart. So that's why I'm here, and I look forward to talking about it.
So I'm always intrigued when people set books in like a Scandi noir type series, and you have a lot of crimes going on in them because it's not renowned Scandinavia for being very crime-ridden, is it?
Actually, Scandinavian countries tend to have the kind of lowest crime rates in the world, and some of the highest kind of happiness rates in the world as well. But I think just the kind of the cold and the fact that it's dark a lot of the time, it's kind of the bleakness of the landscape, and I think the fact that it's kind of quite close to sort of Russia and Eastern Europe as well. It has, I think, a lot of opportunity in fiction to really embrace kind of, some darkness that perhaps is not really present in the UK. I think the biggest thing with kind of Scandinavian fiction is that the elements and the kind of the natural landscape itself ends up being a character as much as the kind of, the characters themselves a lot of the time, which is, I think a big part of the genre.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people drawn to this kind of Scandinavian crime, isn't there? They're a very popular genre.
Yeah, I think that like the Millennium series, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and a few other authors and series really kind of went down this ultra dark kind of noir route that really sort of set the genre down its own path, I think, and really split it off from mainstream crime. And I think because of the groundwork that they laid, that it's really allowed a lot of authors to kind of embrace the darker, more gruesome side of crime, and just kind of gives them a free pass to do so by saying, "Oh, well, it's a Scandi noir," and people are like, "Oh, well, I know this is going to be kind of messed up then."
So what drew you to writing books set there?
I've always liked the kind of the setting as well, and I work for a Swedish company, and I've always loved the mountains and the kind of cold weather and that kind of thing, and snow especially. And I guess I wanted to write something a little bit more, I guess, brutal and a little darker than kind of what I felt that I could maybe do in the UK. And when I was looking at the series, I wasn't really sure where I could set it that would feel like that and would really allow me to kind of evoke those sort of feelings. So because I was working for a Swedish company, I thought, well, I'm going to have lots of kind of colleagues and things who speak the language and who are really intimately involved with the country to allow me to kind of bring hopefully an air of authenticity to something. And that's kind of why I went down that route with Angel Maker. And I didn't know if it was going to be just one novel or two novels, or whether it was going to be a failed experiment. But people seem to really like kind of the way that story went. So it was, it was just something that kind of really set the ball rolling.
So have you, before we go into the darkness of them, have you traveled much in Scandinavia apart from?
I haven't actually. Like that's the funny thing. That's the funniest thing, is that I feel like I've been all over there because I've spent so much time kind of researching, exploring the area, online, and speaking to so many people from there to ensure that I'm getting the right feeling and the right kind of sense of the place, and making sure all the pronunciations and the spellings and the translations are all correct. But I've never actually been there myself. I just haven't had a chance. I did actually have a trip planned in 2020, just before the kind of COVID shut the world down, to go and visit the country and the HQ of the company I was working for. And then that was postponed a year, and then a year, and then we moved to Canada. So it's a bit of a commute now, really. So it's I'm just kind of, luckily enough, BC is kind of pretty similar to Scandinavia in its landscape and weather, so I'm able to channel that.
Yeah. Now they're quite dark, your books, aren't they? You're not shying away from anything.
I think they definitely have their grisly moments for sure. But it's it's like anything, I'm not afraid to kind of go to those darker places, but I always wanted to feel like an organic kind of part of the story rather than just kind of having that kind of gruesomeness for the shock factor alone.
How do you keep the character going though after they've sort of been exposed to all of these dark things on a regular basis?
Well, I think the key thing with Jamie is that she's kind of not neurotypical, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it. She's had a very kind of traumatic and kind of tumultuous upbringing, and that's really, I think, not so much desensitized her to kind of these dark things, but it's really she's been exposed to them since she was kind of young. I mean, that's the the whole premise of Angel Maker is that when she was a teenager, her father was the person investigating this kind of gruesome string of murders in Stockholm, and that she's kind of brought back to kind of consult on that case because she was there, kind of speaking to her father and learning about this kind of when she was a teenager. So I think it's always been in the fabric of her kind of character, and for me, giving her this kind of upbringing and making her a little kind of neuroatypical really kind of gives the opportunity to frame these kind of events in a way that are real, and the fact that she's very much driven by this kind of sense of justice that kind of forces her to confront things head on, and she always kind of embodies this spirit of, well, if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else, and I would rather kind of take the burden of those things myself and do my best to help people and that kind of thing. So it's yeah, I think I just kind of try and frame it within that kind of that ideal, really.
You got some hellos from Leslie and Donna.
Hi guys.
It was Donna who I'd seen had posted about your release day.
Oh, she's been a huge supporter since the start, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
How are you celebrating your book release?
By trying to write probably 5,000 words of the next one. That's generally how it goes with the indie releases, back to back to back, and it's yeah. I mean, that's kind of the crux of it. That by the time one release comes around, you're sort of so deep into the next story that it almost feels kind of anachronistic to be talking about the last one, even though it's the one that people haven't read yet. In reality, it's the one that you've already finished with and kind of filed away in your mind, and you're already focused on the next one. So it's yeah, I feel like this is a good celebration, really, a chance to kind of sit down and talk about it and reflect on it a little.
So a few of the authors I've spoken to recently have said that it's quite hard to go, to talk about the book that's a new release, because often they're like one or two ahead or writing the next one in the series, and that one's been about, cannot be a year or more in the past for them. So it's quite hard to remember what's happened. Do you find that?
I definitely find that as well, and I've as I mentioned to you earlier, we just signed with a publisher for a new book that's going to be coming out next year with Canelo. It's going to be a US set mystery novel, and that's really kind of strange for me to kind of be back talking to the editors about that, because I've written 2 Jamie novels since then. I wrote that back in 2021, at the tail end of 2021, the start of 2022, and it's not going to be coming out until 2024. So that's really strange to kind of be talking about that, and they kind of asking me about all these really kind of nuanced details and things, and I'm like, I don't really have a very clear recollection of even writing this book at this point. It's a really kind of strange sensation to kind of have somebody talking to you about something, asking you about something that you did, and I'm not really able to quite remember what I did. So it's really pretty surreal, but kind of funny.
Canelo are quite a good publishers to be going with, though, haven't they? They've got an amazing sort of group of crime authors. Just
Yeah, I'm really happy to have found a home for the book, and it's a bit of a, I mean, it's called Savage Rage, and it's a US set mystery novel, but it's actually a whodunit, not a whodunit. So that's kind of a bit of a sort of subversion of the regular norms, because in the first kind of chapter you find out who got murdered and who did it, and then the story is told from several points of view, and the story kind of unfolds, and it's really just kind of reframes the idea of kind of a crime novel within the constructs of, you know, what's the experience of kind of the characters who are embroiled in this. You know, what kind of emotional and kind of, you know, mental fallout is there for both the kind of the perpetrators and the kind of the people trying to work towards kind of solving the crime. And, you know, it really allows you to, you know, kind of get hopefully a slightly more novel insight into kind of motivations and morals and the idea of justice and that kind of thing. So it's yeah, it's going to be exciting. You know, they're excited about the book, and I'm really excited to kind of get it out there and get some eyes on it as well. So it'll be, you know, a few months, I think, of kind of hard work and hard editing to, you know, really polish it and make sure that it's the best that it can be. And then, yeah, hopefully it's going to be coming out in the early part of next year.
Is it as dark as the Jamie books, or are we onto a completely different kind of level?
I think it's definitely a more human story. It's more of a kind of, I guess, kind of like a literary leaning, in the sense that it's more focused on the kind of the characters and their relationships. There's definitely some really dark undercurrents to it, and there's a lot of kind of, you know, bad people doing bad things, I guess. You know, I'm trying not to give too much away because it's not sort of, you know, it's not up for pre-order yet. They haven't kind of announced it. So, but it's definitely got those kind of really dark undertones, and I really wanted to focus on that. But it was kind of inspired a lot by We Begin at the End, Chris Whittaker's novel, and, you know, and that's a US set kind of story that's kind of precipitated by a really dark event, but then is just a story of kind of human resilience and, you know, and that kind of thing. And that's something that I kind of wanted to try and explore and do something totally different from the Jamie series.
Do you think that, like, because Scandinavia and kind of the US are really popular sort of settings for books, there's a lot of like competition almost in a way with books set there. Are you ever tempted to sort of go back and set one in your native Wales to be a bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because the next Jamie novel is actually going to be set in Wales. Blackheart actually will mark the kind of the end of Jamie's Scandinavian story and her kind of saga there. I feel that all the stories that I wanted to tell, you know, I have told, and I kind of felt that way after the release of book 6, you know, and I really wasn't sure kind of what I wanted to do with book 7. And, you know, I wrote Blackheart as a way to try and kind of explore something new and do something new. But I felt that the natural step after that was to, you know, bring Jamie back to the UK, which is where she started with the very first book in the kind of what is now the prequel sort of trilogy. And, you know, having lived in Wales my whole life, you know, it's a setting that I'm intimately familiar with, and something that I really wanted to, you know, take Jamie now in this kind of more experienced, kind of more hardened mindset that she's in, and kind of bring her back to the UK and really go a little darker and a little more grisly with you know, with the new series. And yeah, and it's gonna come out in August, at the end of August, and it's going to be called The Last Light of Day, and it's already up for pre-order, and it's there, and it's yeah, it's well underway. The manuscript's kind of nearly done. I'm really excited about it, and really excited to kind of hopefully bring some new readers into the Jamie kind of universe. That's the kind of the thing that I want to do the most, is really kind of allow readers of UK crime fiction to kind of find and discover Jamie in the way that my existing readers already do.
So there's so many comments coming in. Sam says Canella are a wonderful bunch. Both authors and the team. Which is true, they are. We've got a large amount of like the team and authors in our group, and they're all fantastic. So yeah, like I said, brilliant choice of publishers to be with.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
So many of my top reads this year have been Canello.
Yeah,
published. Yeah.
No, they've got a very strong team there, and certainly kind of, you know, even from the first response we had to the kind of submission to them, they came back very quickly. They were kind of very excited about it, and they were very kind of attuned to, what we felt, my agent and I, what we were kind of trying to do with the book, the kind of themes and the elements that we were really trying to embody. So it was really exciting to kind of hear that echoed back from a publisher, and we just really felt that they had the right kind of outlook and the right mindset and the right energy to take the book where we wanted it to go. So we're really excited to kind of see what they do with it. So they're already hard at work, kind of thinking about marketing and positioning and covers and editing and all this kind of exciting stuff. That's really lovely to have. Lots of minds working on a project, whereas historically I've been the only person kind of doing it all. So it's really lovely to work with others and kind of have a collaborative kind of effort.
They have some like really funky covers as well,
Mm.
don't they?
Yeah, they're working with some really talented designers, and I think now more than ever, there's so many books coming out now from so many digital first publishers, and digital first publishers, publishing 2 or 3 titles a year from authors, whereas kind of traditional publishers historically only did 1 a year at most, sometimes 1 every 18 months or 1 every 2 years was very common. So I think the importance of a really strong cover is kind of heightened now more than ever.
But ones that stand out, 'cause you get bored of the covers that are all like really similar, don't you? Like,
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I spoke to a bunch of designers because I went with a new designer for the next Jamie novel and kind of went through a series of iterations and concept designs before we kind of got to the one we're at now, which I feel definitely kind of incorporates those classic elements, but is a little more perhaps, I don't know, eye catching, I think, than kind of what I was able to kind of achieve, myself really.
Donna's also said that Chris Whitaker's just announced a new book set in America.
Ooh, well, I'll have to put a pre-order in for that. I really did enjoy We Begin at the End, so it's
It's
I think me and everybody else who read it.
been 4 years apparently since We Begin at the End.
Really, wow,
Mm.
that's crazy. 4 years, really.
I wouldn't question Donna. I think if it was Donna who said that, and I think she's probably going to be right.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I mean, saying that it was 18 months ago that I started writing Savage Ridge, and that was, and I had We Begin at the End on my Kindle for at least probably the best part of a year before I read it. So I guess it must be, yeah, it probably is 4 years. I mean, that's only 2019 though, so in my mind, it's at least 2016. But I think, yeah.
And Leslie said that Leslie Lloyd said she had an early peek at Savage Ridge.
She did, yeah. So it started out as quite a short novel, about 55,000 words, which is kind of what I originally pitched and got picked up with. And Leslie was and always continues to be one of my kind of very early beta readers who reads kind of what I produce and gives me all of the corrections of everything that I kind of overlook and do wrong, especially when it comes to like the medical side of things. She's indispensable. So yeah, if anybody needs any medical kind of expertise for their books, ask Leslie very nicely. She's very well versed in that.
Leslie is. I always say to people, I think she's a really good champion of books and authors.
Oh, for sure. And she doesn't pull any punches either. And there's in this industry, there can be quite a lot of platitudes, and there's a lot of really, really kind of well regarded and well written books coming out. But it's the thing I really respect Leslie for is the fact that she's not afraid to say if she feels that something isn't kind of a 5-star read, and that's really important, because otherwise, us lot are going to get complacent.
It's true. She has a really good opinion about books. I quite often will listen to Leslie. She gives me book recommendations every night.
Oh yeah, no, I think yeah, that's just it, isn't it? I think if you have a book recommendation from somebody that you trust, that's the best endorsement for a book. So
yeah, it's the way to go. So while we're on that, what have you read recently that you've really enjoyed?
I'm kind of on a Robert Brasinder binge at the moment. So I'm reading his new series at the moment, and I'm feeling very kind of inspired to try a little harder with my own crime writing. I think he's an extremely talented author.
How do you go? So you were talking about writing a wide on it. What kind of research are you putting into sort of doing your crime writing? Do you do lots of procedural research, like forensics? Do you just read lots of crime books and take what you like?
I try and read kind of pretty widely. More than anything, I read a lot of literary fiction as well, and a lot of sci-fi and dystopian fiction, and kind of slot a crime novel in here and there. The thing that kind of I definitely don't try to do is kind of procedural work. There's so many guys out there who are kind of ex-police, or ex-prison guards, or ex kind of psychologists or doctors, or people who are such experts within their own fields that they can write with such accuracy and experience that it's near impossible to manufacture. And I have kind of too much respect for the genre to try to kind of really emulate that. So I don't know if you can hear, that's my dog scratching at the door. He's being very, very needy, trying to come in. But for me, it's more of a case of going with what I feel are the strong points of my writing, and for me, those are kind of the characterization and the kind of the interplay that I can create between characters and relationships, and as well the kind of more dynamic action scenes. I spent a lot of time writing kind of pulp science fiction for a publisher, and I learned a lot about kind of writing quick, fast, punchy, exciting kind of things, and that's something that I really try to incorporate into the Jamie series, is this kind of this ebb and flow kind of thing, these fast, punchy, exciting action scenes, kind of then and a duality then of these kind of slower, more kind of introspective kind of lulls, I guess, where you really get to know the characters and invest in them. So for me, the procedural side is something that I try to stay away from, and I try to create stories that don't rely on that. So I can usually do that pretty well by kind of positioning Jamie outside of the police kind of force that she's working with. So it's it's definitely easier for me to stay away from that. It kind of leaves me less vulnerable to the kind of the warranted criticism of when somebody tries to do a procedural and doesn't do it correctly.
Who are your favorite sci-fi authors?
I think Blake Crouch is probably my favorite sci-fi author. He wrote a wonderful book called Dark Matter, and then did one called Recurrence and Upgrade, and they're just fabulous, totally fabulous. So I love those so much. And Hugh Howey, I'm reading his Sand trilogy at the moment, and that's pretty good too.
Is that the one that's currently being shown on Apple TV?
Dark Matter.
No, there's Hugh Howey did the Silo trilogy, didn't he? And the
Oh
Silo.
yeah, no, the Wool trilogy. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's the trilogy that really made me fall in love with his writing. That's it's really fantastic. I haven't seen that. I didn't realize it had been adapted, but I'll try and check it out because I really did love those books.
There's adaptation on Apple TV at the moment. It's really good. My top two kind of sci-fi writers at the moment are probably Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, the Children of Time series, right?
Yeah, but I'm just branching out and trying some more of his. And the James Corey.
Yeah, the Expanse series, right? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know that's actually two guys, the James A. Corey?
Yeah.
They're a duo, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
one of them was a researcher for George R.R. Martin.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Well, yeah, he's definitely got the he's got a good CV then.
It does, but it's such a good series.
Oh, for sure. It's Leviathan Falls, I think the series name, right? It's yeah, it's definitely one that's kind of, because I watched the series on TV and I really enjoyed that. But sorry, do you mind if I just open this door? This dog, the bane of my life. Okay, you're happy now? Yes, he is happy. He is interrupted and interjected in every single interview I've done in the last 3 years, and it's been a running joke, I think. Every time I've done a live, every time I've done a vlog, every time I've done anything, this dog has just scratched and squeaked, inside, outside, barked. I even have at the end of one of the audiobooks, there's an interview with me and the narrator talking about it, and about 20 minutes in, he just wakes up and starts going ballistic for no reason. It's really it's pretty much it's about as common in my series, I think, as any other theme.
I think the joy of live interviews is that you get to meet people's pets. It's the
Yeah.
same as I'm a teacher, and we now do our like our parents' evening things we do on like a video. So we have like a
Mm,
review day, and we do them all on video, and you get to meet like the kids' dogs and things. And
yeah.
it's absolute highlight of my day. I love it.
Mm, yeah. It's well, you can't give them too much credit. They're just animals. But yeah, I think my partner is gunning for a cat. So yeah, I keep expecting her to bring home a kitten one day.
Oh, how will your dog take that? Do we think or?
He talks a big game, but I think he's actually a bit of a chicken. Honestly, I don't think he's gonna. I think he'll learn to love it. He's pretty well natured.
So you've got a long running series and a new US set series. You tempted to write a standalone?
Yeah, well, the US one is actually going to be a standalone. It's a single kind of story, and then the follow up then is going to be another standalone. So it's yeah, I think there's definitely kind of a draw to write standalones. It's a different kind of mindset when you're writing. You're kind of writing towards a sense of finality, which is really nice because you can do things like you know make decisions for characters that you're very limited to when you're kind of writing a series.
And what about merging your loves of sci-fi and crime and having a bit of a kind of futuristic crime series?
I'd love to. I mean, I actually wrote one a few years back when I was working for the sci-fi publisher. It's called Tilted Axis. It's actually still up on Amazon if anybody wants to go and read it. It's under my actual name, Daniel Morgan, and that's a space set kind of noir novel, I guess, set on Mars. So it's that was so much fun to write. That was actually kind of the thing that inspired me to get into Earthbound crime writing was kind of writing that noir novel. And yeah, I'm still working away on a kind of a dystopian kind of novel that I've been penning for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years now, I think. So it's probably longer than that. I wrote that or started that in 2014, 2015. So it's and that's a dystopian mystery novel, I guess. So
This is Leslie, I think, saying she loves speculative crime, which I do as
mm,
well. So I think probably one of my favourite sci-fi authors of all time is Philip K. Dick.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's
I absolutely adore the work of Sarah Moorhead, who wrote
yes.
there. So
Mm. It's
so many parallels to.
mm. Yeah, there was another one that Leslie recommended to me as well. I feel like the name is Michelle Medhat. Was a kind of that was like a medical or I think that was a techno thriller that Leslie recommended. She said that was very good, and I'd love to do that kind of thing. I really would. It's just very tough when you're kind of in the early stages of your kind of writing career and you're trying to solidify yourself as a kind of as a household name in a ultra competitive kind of environment, and one misstep can mean disaster really for the rest of the series. So it's tough to really push that envelope in a really concerted way. And even if you do it just for kind of your own passion and things, you're then trying to squeeze in a passion project novel, in between kind of your series books and things. So it's a really tough call. I mean, I really just hope that in the next 3 years or something, I can take my foot off the gas pedal a little bit and drop down to maybe 2 books a year instead of 4. That would be really nice.
Donna recommended Michelle Medhat, I think.
Ah,
So
yes.
Sam and Donna are saying that her books are great. I've not read it yet, but
Mm,
they
yeah,
must be
she's
great.
it's on my TBR list. But it's an ever growing TBR list. And I've got a friend that lives in San Diego that I was in university with when he was doing his PhD, and he keeps sending me books to read that he says are wonderful, and I keep saying I can't read them as fast as you. So it's yeah.
See, I can read really fast, but I still have an insanely big TBR pile.
It's tough, and like I love to read, I really do, but sometimes I just, reading in my spare time, plus, reading so much for my day job and so much kind of technical documentation and nonfiction that I have to read and consume and then write as well. And then kind of running Grindstone on the side, which is a novel competition platform that I founded 7 or 8 years ago. That's like, I have to read so much of kind of so many entries and submissions that when it comes down to my free time, I'm kind of not really very motivated to read a whole lot. Unfortunately, I wish I was. So it's definitely something I want to try and do more of. And less reading for work, more reading for pleasure.
Yeah. I find me and Sam both find that our reading piles get taken over with the author chats, but I mean that can be a good thing. You discover loads of amazing new authors, but it does stop you reading the ones that you've got piled up inside as well.
Especially if you want to go back and read something kind of older that you've been meaning to read for a while, and it just kind of gets caught up in the tumult of kind of new books coming out. It's it's a very, very difficult thing to down a TBR mountain range. It does feel like that.
Yeah, that's what mine's like. I've moved my thing now, but you can see some of my.
Oh wow! Jeez, well, mine's not quite that big, but
those ones are mostly red actually. But
well, it's good that you still have the motivation to kind of sit down and just and read so many of them. And I mean, I shudder to think how many new authors are kind of coming through and coming out with books now, and it seems now more than ever, and it's great, but it also makes kind of doing this all the more difficult. I mean, it's still fun, still the only thing I want to do with my life, but it's definitely more competitive than ever out there.
Donna says you're normally working on about 10 things in one go.
Yes, no, that's about right. Yeah. So,
what are you working on currently?
What am I working on currently? The new Jamie novel, a short story / kind of novella to kind of give to the readers of the old Jamie series to really kind of fill in the blank space, hopefully between the kind of the book that's coming out today and the next one. I'm going to be working on the sequel for the kind of follow up to Savage Rage is going to be coming out. What else am I working on? I mean, I've got my day job. I'm Grindstone, and I'm probably working on some kind of hopefully some more stuff for the rights department to kind of take to kind of producers and things for the series. So I mean, a little bit of everything really. I've got my fingers in a lot of in a lot of projects. I mean, I like it though. I like being involved in that kind of thing. I'm always trying to explore new avenues and new ways to kind of approach this and improve my processes and reach new readers and interact with them in new and exciting ways. So it's I'm definitely kind of scatterbrained, but I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I like to be working on multiple things at once. Keeps me going.
I think I work best when I've got like a ridiculous amount of things to do in one go.
Oh yeah, I do my best work under pressure for sure. Like if I gave myself a bit of a break with Blackheart. Like I gave myself 8 months between the kind of releases, which is the longest since kind of Bare Skin came out. And yeah, and I thought, I'll have that time. I'll finish it in kind of 3 months, and then I'll write another Jamie novel in between that time. And I just, because I didn't have a deadline encroaching, I didn't really focus on it in the same way that setting up closer packed kind of release dates really kind of spurs me on to finish it. So I'm definitely a procrastinator when I don't have a deadline kind of crushing me.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Donna says that you're still a baby, so you have the energy.
Yeah, well, we bought and renovated the house that I'm sitting in here now in Canada, so that was definitely something to sap the energy over the winter. Did lots of drywalling and plumbing and electrical work and insulation and all carpentry and everything that I'm not really qualified to do. So it was fun to kind of turn my attention to something other than a screen for once. But yeah, definitely kind of really drove home the fact that that I 100% want to write for a living, and I definitely don't want to kind of leave this to go and be a plumber.
Good to know. Sam asked you further up. Sorry, I've missed some of the questions. Where is it now?
How does it feel to start a new series
Yeah,
with a new
that's the one.
character?
That's the one. Is it as scary as last time?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you come away from what you know, especially when you're writing a series that people seem to like, it's always scary to try something different because you don't know if people are going to like it, if you're going to kind of have wasted a whole lot of time. But it was definitely scary, but definitely kind of exciting to be able to try something new and kind of I think the most tricky thing was kind of settling into a new style. Like Jamie's style is very kind of over the shoulder, I guess. You're kind of seeing the world through her lens and experiencing it as she experiences it. You get her inner monologue and her kind of view of things. So that allows you to do interesting things like obscure things from the reader and kind of keep things back because you can just have Jamie not notice things or have things happening outside of Jamie's kind of field of vision and kind of sphere of kind of knowing, and you can use these kind of really interesting mechanisms to kind of build suspense or create kind of intrigue or kind of hold back a twist or kind of make a twist and reveal really kind of shocking, but kind of then switching that up and going to kind of like a multiple POV, kind of more omniscient sort of style was really tricky because I was trying to figure out then how can I do these things? How can I create kind of alliances and allegiances, and how can I sway the authors or the kind of the readers' thoughts and opinions about characters when they have access to all of the characters and all of the information? So it was definitely a learning experience as I went, but luckily, I had the support of my agent and things to really and my beta reading team and Leslie, of course, to really kind of police me and kind of point me in the right direction and tell me where the weak parts were and what I could improve. And yeah, it's been tough, but really kind of rewarding.
So you've got Jamie moving to Wales. Do you think there's a point where you'll stop writing her? You'll have told enough stories with her, or
It's tough, because it's like, could because guys like Ian Rankin, it's like Rebus has been going for years and years. I think it gets to a point definitely where the series feels like it wants to be refreshed, and I tend to do that with kind of new partners or new settings or new kind of stories. But you know, I'm even in this story here, I'm kind of doing something that I feel like I haven't done before, but it's definitely got parallels. And when I was speaking to my mum, actually, who is a really kind of wonderful supporter of the series and things, I was kind of talking to her about the new series, and she was saying like, "Oh, so it's like this book, and it's like that book in the series," and I was like, "Oh, well, not really. Like they're new themes, but like it gets to a point where like there are only so many crimes that can be committed, so you kind of at some point do feel a little like you're retreading the same ground, but I think the beauty of the series is that you can allow your kind of your hero to really kind of grow and progress, and every story is changed because they see and experience the story in a new way. So even if it's a similar premise, it feels like a whole new story because your character is a different person by the time they get to this story. If that makes sense.
yeah?
So I think so long as Jamie continues to evolve and so long as she doesn't stagnate as a person, I think that I'll keep writing her. But I really hope that when it feels like she's done, that I can just kind of allow her to be done and kind of change gears and work on something else, or do what like JD Kirk has done, for example, where he kind of uses peripheral characters from the books and kind of gives them their own story. So your main character becomes a side character in a different kind of story, and I think that's a really interesting way to build a universe, and it's a new way of storytelling that kind of indie publishing has really facilitated. That's kind of hasn't been available in traditional publishing when you're putting out a title every 2 years.
I think it can work. It depends on what the series is like, doesn't it? Like Ben Aranovich has got a really good like kind of spin-off novella series that goes alongside his main one and tells the stories of different characters.
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to do something different, and I think that there's a lot of books coming out that are doing the kind of the known things really well, and I think that's great. But for me, it's always a case of asking the question, how do I make this different? How do I make this stand out? What can I do in this story that really kind of challenges the reader and kind of forces them to think about things in a new way? And that's kind of really what informed Savage Ridge, is because as I said, the kind of the killer is revealed in the first kind of pages, and then you realize that actually the killer then is the main character, and that's the only person that you're kind of interacting with on a first person narrative basis. So you really kind of are asked the question, from the very outset: can you be brought around to sympathize with somebody that has done something as terrible as murder somebody? And that's hopefully going to feel like an interesting way for a crime novel or a mystery novel to go. And I'm excited to kind of see whether or not that's a story that lands with people and they kind of really enjoy being kind of challenged, I guess, or having to read something different, or whether or not tried and true is always going to win out.
No, I think that's a really interesting. My favorite book this year is Maiden by Kate Foster,
Oh yeah.
and that does that. It takes a real crime that happened in the past,
Mm.
that really happened. So this person really did commit a murder, and they were executed for it.
Oh
And it
geez.
tells the story of why she thinks that person did it, because you don't know why. You know the facts. You know that the person
Mm.
crime. You know that they were executed.
Yeah.
Quite a famous ghost story apparently in Edinburgh. But
Ooh.
then she's like rewritten it as like her imagining of how this person could have ended up
It's
doing the crime. And I think that was really, because you start out, you can Google what happened to the person. It's
mm,
a real person. So you know how it's gonna end up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you
yeah.
know where it's gonna go, but it's still a really good book.
It's I mean that sounds like the same kind of why done it sort of premise, which is which I think is, yeah, I think people are just trying to find new ways into old stories, and I think that's kind of the way that literature evolves. And I read a wonderful book called Trinity by Louisa Hall, which is a semi-biographical, semi-fictional novel telling the kind of the story of the life of Robert Oppenheimer, the guy who kind of created the first kind of nuclear bomb. But because so much of his life was obscured, I guess, by the fact that he was working on the Manhattan Project and was very much kind of sequestered to Los Alamos where they were developing it, and he was being followed by Secret Service all the time. He had to be very secretive, and a lot of his kind of inner life isn't really well known. So what Louisa did in that book was she kind of did a huge amount of research on his life, and then kind of really tried to fill in those kind of blanks and try to really humanize the guy that kind of is either the man who won the war for the good guys, or he's the man that facilitated the murder of the biggest single mass genocide at any one time, because obviously without his work, Hiroshima and Nagasaki wouldn't have happened. All those people have. So it's a really interesting thing that she does, is tries to humanize him and kind of tries to bring his story to life, I guess, rather than just the kind of what was kind of splashed across the tabloids and the kind of the newspapers at the time. So it's yeah, I'd really recommend reading that. I met her in 2019 during my time in university, and I got a signed copy here. It's yeah, it's a wonderful book. I love that book so much.
Donna's asked if your partner reads your books.
She has started, yeah, but I like to buy her books, and as much as I love what I do, I think that there are far better books that she can read, and I'd rather her kind of read those books instead. So I kind of try to push her towards reading yeah, other things. So it's I also find it kind of quite strange, because I wrote for so long with nobody ever reading my books. I find it very strange for when kind of people I know personally do read them.
You're winning as a partner there if your answer is I like to buy her books.
Yeah. Yeah, much to her chagrin, really, sometimes, because she's like, "Oh my god, I've got so much to read. Stop buying me books." I'm like, "Read faster."
My husband's just resigned himself to the fact that there's going to be lots of books in the house.
Well, that's fine. There too many books is never a bad thing. And you're
Oh,
supporting us authors, and keeping us in, I don't know, Tesco value underpants, probably not so much furs anymore, right? But
well, I told him in lockdown, I was like, aren't you glad that I have so many books? Because it's been
yeah, well, that's
difficult
just
for
it.
him now.
Yeah, I had to leave so many of mine behind. I had a lot of books that I really wanted to bring, but it's so expensive to ship things by post, and near impossible to bring things kind of on the plane. Really, you can't carry an entire kind of box set of books. So it's yeah, I don't have a very large collection here, unfortunately.
It's
And
tricky, isn't it, even when you go back and forth and you live abroad? Um,
mm,
we did it for a while when I was younger, and you couldn't, like, you always put in your suitcase some things that you want to take that you can't
mm,
get wherever you live. But there is like a limit to what you can have.
yeah, and like one of my favorite series of books is the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. It's a fantasy series, but there's 9 books in the series, I think now, or 8 books, and they're pretty hefty, and they're trade paperbacks, so they're kind of 6x9s, and I've read them all cover to cover probably 2 or 3 times. The books themselves have the sentimental value more than the kind of intrinsic value, I guess, now. And like, if I wanted to bring those in my suitcase, that they're more than 20 kilograms probably for the 9 books alone. So I'd be going oversized and have to pay hundreds of dollars to bring them, more to bring them or ship them than it would cost to replace them here. But I've read them all a couple of times, and I don't really need to replace them. So it's kind of this weird thing where I'd love to have them on my shelf because they're some of my favorite books, but also rebuying them all seems pointless, and bringing them all seems pointless. So I don't really know what to do.
Rebuy them all. That's
Yeah.
definitely the answer.
I think so. Yeah, maybe Christmas. I mean, they're quite expensive to buy, and buying 9 books at the same time that I have no intention of reading is probably.
It's a really good series, though, The Witcher series.
Mm,
I'm a
I
big.
love that series a lot. Don't get me started on the TV show, though. I will talk forever on that, and probably not very nice about it. So it's,
Maybe when we finish. I like the TV show as well, though. To be fair, he's got a new one, like the Tower of Fools.
oh
I
yeah,
don't know if it's not in the Witcher series. I've not read it yet. It's on my.
okay.
I'm looking at it on my book.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh
because I've done
well.
all of the Witcher series.
Mm.
So when he had a new book out, I bought it.
Yeah, I read the latest one that came out. The one that was kind of the non sort of the one that was like anachronistic, the one that was out of the series. And I thought that was good. I didn't think it was as good as the actual mainline series, but I still thought it was good. And yeah, I'll still read kind of whatever he puts out. So
So, yeah, I think you get authors like that, don't you? That you'll buy anything they write.
mm. Oh, for sure, Blake Crouch is one of those. Anytime that he has like a new book out, he's pretty much one of the only authors I pre-order. And then as soon as the book comes out, whatever I'm reading, I just immediately put down and just devour that in like 2 or 3 days, and then kind of go back to slogging through whatever else I'm reading.
I call them my shut up and take my money authors.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's
They're
well, that's
just the ones that you'll buy whatever. Joe Hill is one for me.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's I mean, it's wonderful. Those kind of those readers are the ones that kind of really help. I mean, like I reached out to Blake Crouch, and I sent him an email just through his contact form saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I love the books, because on the rare occasion I get those messages, those are really heartening. It's very, it kind of feels disconnected from the kind of the people actually reading the book sometimes when you're going through the process of writing it and releasing it, and it feels so very impersonal at times. So kind of getting to connect with readers, or hearing from readers who are really kind of finding something that resonates with them in your work is kind of the thing that really fills my heart and really kind of inspires me to sit down and write more than anything else.
I guess that's the joy of book events.
Mm.
Like things like this, or going out to live events are probably even better, where you get to meet your readers.
Yeah, it's I haven't actually managed to get to any yet, but I'm hoping that Savage Ridge comes out next year, that we can do a book tour in the UK, and I can get out to Crime Fest and Harrogate, and come to a couple of them and do a few, and and meet some people finally, and and just kind of become a little more involved in that side of things. I've always been kind of sequestered to my room and made sure to kind of just be pumping out books that I'm really hoping that over the next year or two I can really stop and start to enjoy the process a little more.
Yeah, they're well worth trying to hit at least one event at one point, because the crime community is just really lovely.
Donna says the dark side of Brighton. I'll be there. You send me an invite, Don. I'll be there for you. I promise.
Yeah, that's Donna's event.
It is, yeah.
We've got one in 2 days.
Oh
2
wow,
days?
yeah.
Yeah, 2 days, I think, nearly.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, maybe I
On
can try and make
Saturday.
them both next year.
That is, if there is another one next year, we will see.
Yeah,
See
I mean,
how one on Saturday goes.
it's a huge undertaking to organize, so I appreciate the kind of the gravity of what it means to say yes, we're going to do another one.
Yeah, I was saying this to my husband. I was like, it's like planning a wedding.
Yeah.
And there's more people coming to this event than went to my wedding, so.
Well, I plan to have a very, very small wedding, so that probably says a lot about my kind of willingness to plan big events.
Yeah, no, we did very small. Deliberately. Apparently you need a plane ticket as well.
Yeah, I will need a plane ticket. Well, I'm hoping that we can work that out with Canelo, and and I got lots of family and friends in the UK that I'd love to see again. And my mum lives down in Spain, and it's a heck of a lot easier to fly from the UK to Spain than it is to fly from here to Spain. So I mean, if I'm going to be back in the UK, I'll try and be back in the UK for enough time to kind of do it all. So it's it's definitely exciting living here. But yeah, you miss home, and I think I'm hoping that setting the JME series now in Wales going forward is going to allow me to reconnect a little bit with the place that I called home for my entire life.
It must be harder to do that big move when you have a place that you've called home for your entire life. So I've lived abroad, and it's a challenge, but I don't really have a hometown.
I know what you mean.
So it's not as bad for me because I don't have roots anywhere.
It's, I mean, being Welsh, you definitely get to, you definitely have a sense of hiraeth, I guess, is the kind of best way to put it, which, I think is quite interesting, because it's like, it's one of those things that a lot of people, even if they don't speak Welsh, they know that term, they know that word hiraeth, and they mostly think that it just means homesickness. But actually, kind of hiraeth is more, it's more kind of feeling a longing for a sense of home rather than homesickness, which is kind of more of a kind of a derivative sort of way. And I think that like you can feel here right for so many places, and that's kind of what drove us here, is that whenever we used to go away and visit the mountains and things, my partner and I, we always felt this sense of like we should be somewhere like this, and we should really embrace kind of something new and something exciting and this sense of adventure. So that's the kind of feeling that drove us here to Canada, because we're surrounded by mountains here and wilderness, and it feels really wild and really exciting, and so kind of in tune with what we love to do, and kind of just being in nature and sports and that kind of thing, and being here and getting to embrace that is wonderful, and that's kind of satiated one side of it. But then I'm definitely getting a sense of hiraeth then for kind of for Wales as well, and my family, and the place I grew up, and the place that that I've left so much of myself in. So it's there's definitely a duality to it, and I think that yeah, it's it'll be nice to kind of relive it all through the books, and then hopefully come back and experience it once again. It makes it all the more special.
Yeah, my family wisdom is that your home is all the things that you take with you.
For sure. And and at this point, I've been with my partner for 12 years now, and I think that we're building a home, and our home is going to be where, we bought this house now, and our home is going to be, I think, where we make our friends and where we raise our kids, and where we, begin to kind of really lay down those roots and make those memories and things. And I don't necessarily think that, you're limited to have one home. I think you can have, many homes, because I think, home is wherever you feel like your home. And I don't think that just has to be one place.
No, agreed. 100%. So we've got 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Remind people of the book that's out today, what they're going to go away and buy.
Yep, for sure. Well, I mean, if you want to, the other thing is that Angel Maker, the first book in the Jeremy Johansson series, is still free. So you can go to Amazon and you can download that on the Kindle for free today, the last day, whether in the UK or the US or anywhere else. Just go and just get it for free, and you can read it. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get the entire box set, all 7 books in the D.I. James Johansson series, beginning with Angel Maker and ending with Blackheart, and you can borrow that on Kindle Unlimited for free. That's 6 books, 600,000 words, and that's and Blackheart is the 10th Jamie novel. It's basically 1 million words of Jamie. So you can get them all for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. So I'd recommend going and do that if you've got a year of your life that you want to spend reading Jamie. Or maybe a couple of weeks if you read at the speed that Donna and Leslie do. So it's pretty wild. It would take me so long to get through them, but yeah, you can go and start the series for free right now with Angel Maker, or if you're up to date, then go and grab Blackheart. It's out now. It's it's the big one. It's the kind of the final leg of Jamie's kind of story in Sweden, and so far I think people like it, and I hope you will too if you get a chance to go and read it.
And the book coming out next year with Canelo?
That's going to be called Savage Ridge. So that's going to be a US set mystery novel, and that's not up for pre-order yet, but we'll be back hopefully with an official announcement soon. And I can't wait to kind of hear more about what they want to do with it and things. I'm really excited, and I'm going to be hard at work now on the follow up to that very, very soon. So it's been it's been wonderful to kind of take that step from indie publishing into kind of that traditional sort of world, and have kind of other people standing behind the books and kind of what we do going forward as well. I'm really excited to get to kind of try new things and experiment, and have other people shouting above the work as well. That's something that's really always been a dream of mine. So it's really surreal to be here.
But good.
Oh, very good. Yeah, very good. Now I just got to quit my day job. So if you can, lovely readers, buy 1,000 copies of every book.
So that you can quit your day job.
No, I'd settle for one.
Donna's said she's going to read Blackheart ASAP.
Well, I really hope you enjoy it. I really do. It's it took me a while to write, so I hope that it was worth the wait.
I'm sure she'll let you know.
Oh, I think she will. I hope so.
And then Sam said thank you. And that's all that's left to say, really. Thank you for coming along and having a chat with us.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It's been brilliant, and hopefully I'll be back next year for another one to celebrate the release of Savage Ridge.
Yeah, hopefully.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much.